Hello, in this video I am going to explain how to answer the questions in the Edexcel GCSE Maths Paper 3 from June 2019, the Foundation tier. The purpose of this video is for your learning and understanding, not just the answers. There are of course other videos out there. Write 478 to the nearest 100. In a question like this, write out the number and write the place value headings. So we have hundreds, tens, and units. Because we are rounding to the nearest 100, draw a line after the hundreds, so after the 4, underline the 7, and that's the only one we focus on. That 7 is above 5, so to the nearest 100, it would become 500. In the answer, all you need to write is 500 and you would get the 1 mark. Write down a multiple of 8 that is between 41 and 60. I would write down my 8 times tables starting with 40, so then I've got 48, 56, 64. Of course, because it's between 41 and 60, I can only write 48 or 56. The question says write down a multiple, so you only need to write one of them, you do not need to write both. Change 1.5 kilometers to meters. So I'm going to start with my two headings, kilometers and meters. I know 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. I have been asked to change 1.5 kilometers into meters. If I go across from 1 to 1,000, I need to multiply by 1,000. At the bottom, I will do the same because it's the same direction. And 1.5 multiplied by 1,000 gives me 1,500 meters. It is a 1 mark question, so you can just write 1,500 meters. Here is a list of numbers. From the list, write down all the numbers that are powers of 3. So powers of 3 are 3 to the power of 1, which is 3, 3 squared, which is 9, 3 cubed, which is 27, and just to be safe, 3 to the power of 4 is 81. From the list above, we can only use 9 and 27. The question does say all the numbers that are powers of 3, so we need both of them for the 1 mark. Write down 19% as a fraction. Remember, percent means per 100, so we have 19 over 100. This cannot be simplified and it's a 1 mark question, so we don't need to simplify even if we could. Work out 20% of 80. You could do this in 2 ways. You could do a multiplier method, 0.2 multiplied by 80. So there's your method mark. And then if you write 16, you'd get the second mark. You could work out 10% first. And that would be 80 divided by 10 to get us 8. And then 20% would be 8 multiplied by 2. And that gets us 16. Both of these are clear methods with a clear answer. There are 4 types of counter in a bag. The table shows the number of each type of counter in the bag. There are more green counters than red counters. How many more? To start with, let's work out the total green counters. So that is 26 green circles, add 7 green squares, that gives us 33. Then let's work out the total red counters. That's 16 red circles, add on the 11 red squares, so we have 27. Then to work out the difference, we need to do 33 subtract 27, and that gets us 6. For the first mark, for the method mark, if you've got the total green or the total red, or for saying 33 subtract 27, you would get 1 mark. Then you would get the final mark for saying the answer is 6. Here is the gauge for the fuel tank of a car. The fuel tank holds 52 litres of fuel when the tank is full. The tank is 1/4 full of fuel. Work out how many more litres of fuel are needed to fill the tank. Step 1. We need to work out how many litres are in the tank at the moment. So 1/4 of the 52 litres. We need to do 52 divided by 4, and that gets us 13. We now have 1 mark. We need to work out how many more litres are needed. So we need to do 52 subtract 13. There is our second mark. For writing down 39 litres, we would get our third mark. Simplify 4e, add 6f, add 7e, subtract f. This is about collecting like terms. I'm going to underline 4e, I'm going to underline add 7e, and then I'm going to box up add 6f and subtract f. Now I have 4e add 7e, which is 11e, and that's my first mark. 6f subtract f is a positive 5f, and there is my second mark. Bill has 400 counters in a bag. He gives 35 of the counters to Samina, 50 of the counters to Henry, 75 of the counters to Lucas. What fraction of the 400 counters is left in Bill's bag? Give your fraction in its simplest form. Step 1 is to work out how many Bill has left. So we need to do 400, subtract 35, subtract 50, subtract 75. That gives us 240 and 1 mark. Step 2 is to write it as a fraction. He has 240 out of a possible 400. Now I have 2 marks. We need to simplify as much as we can. If I divide the top and the bottom by 10, I end up with 24 over 40, and I can keep on dividing. I can divide by 8, and the final answer is 3/5, and that gets me the final and third mark. The table shows the costs of sending a parcel by the express service and by the rapid service. Brendan has to send 12 parcels. It will be cheaper to send the parcels by the express service than by the rapid service. How much cheaper? Step 1, work out the difference for just one parcel. So we are going to do £35.38, subtract £15.25, and that gets us £20.13, and now we have 1 mark. Step 2, work out the total difference. So for all 12 parcels, we are going to do 12 multiplied by £20.13, and that gets us our second mark. Our answer is then £241.56, and that gets us our third mark. Luke wants to send 21 parcels by the express service. He does the calculation 20 multiplied by £15 to get £300 to estimate the cost. Explain why Luke's calculation shows the actual cost will be more than £300. You must say he rounded both numbers down. If you work out the actual cost is £320.25, you do not get the mark. Ali, Ben and Kathy share an amount of money in the ratio of 6 to 9 to 10, what fraction of the money does Ben get? I am going to rewrite the ratio with my headings, 6 to 9 to 10. I'm also going to work out the total parts, which is 25. The question is asking about Ben. Ben has a total of 9 parts out of a possible 25. You get 1 mark for knowing the denominator is 25 and the second mark for saying 9 over 25. The first term of a sequence of numbers is 24. The term-to-term rule of this sequence is add 8. Josie says, no number in this sequence is in the 5 times table. Give an example to show that Josie is wrong. Let's start with 24. We're going to add on 8, 32, keep on adding 8, 40, 48, and so on. You should notice that 40 is an example of a number in the 5 times table, and that is all you need to write for 1 mark. Is 85 a number in this sequence? Give a reason for your answer. Without a reason, we will not get the mark. So we need to say no, because we cannot divide 85 by 8. You should have noticed that all of the numbers in this sequence were divisible by 8. Find the value of 5.27 add 3.5 all over 7.9 subtract 4.36. Give your answer as a decimal. Write down all the figures on your calculator display. You should have worked out on your calculator that the numerator would be 8.77 and the denominator would be 3.54. If your calculator does not have the fraction button, you need to type in 8.77 divided by 3.54 and that will get you 1 mark. For the final mark, you need to say 2.477411 and it does continue, but just those figures are enough. You can use this rule to work out the total hire charge in pounds for hiring a 3D printer for a number of weeks. Mia wants to hire a 3D printer for 4 weeks. Work out the total hire charge. We need to do 4 multiplied by 70 add 50. By writing this, we have 1 mark. We then go on to work it out and we get £330. Remember, you must write out your method. Zahir hires a 3D printer. The total hire charge is 680. For how many weeks does Zahir hire the printer? I am going to rewrite this rule in a flowchart method. We have number of weeks multiplied by 70, add on 50. In this case, the answer is £680. To solve this, we need to go backwards doing the inverse. So we will subtract 50 and then divide by 70. 680 subtract 50 is 630. Divide by 70 and we get 9. This would get me 1 mark for method. My answer is then 9 weeks. Questions like this, you must write out method. Here is a rectangle. The 6-sided shape below is made from 2 of these rectangles. Work out the perimeter of this 6-sided shape. Perimeter is all the outside lengths added together, so I'm just going to label all of the lengths. We've got 4 over here, 6, 4, 6, 4, and 6. For working out this yellow length over here, we would get 1 mark, and that is 6 subtract 4, and so 2. We have 1 mark so far. Remember, perimeter is all the outside lengths added together. I'm going to start from this top left-hand side corner. So I'm going to do 4, add 2, add 6, add 4, add 6, add 4, add 6. Now I have a second mark. The answer is then 32 centimeters, and now we have 3 marks. The accurate scale diagram shows a telephone mast and a box. The box has a real width of 1.5 meters. Find an estimate for the real height in meters of the telephone mast. Measure out the width with your ruler and see how many of them you can fit along your mast. Mine will be slightly rough, but you should be using a ruler and you should be able to see that you can fit 6 of them. So then we would do 6 multiplied by 1.5, and that is 1 mark. And then for writing 9 meters, we would get a second mark. The table shows information about the number of points scored by 30 students in a quiz. Find the modal number of points. Remember, modal means most. So which number of points was the most popular? In this case, it's 2. All we need to write is 2 points for 1 mark. Work out the total number of points scored. For total number of points, we need to do frequency multiplied by the points. 0 multiplied by 4 is 0. 1 multiplied by 3 is 3. 2 multiplied by 7 is 14. 3 multiplied by 5 is 15. 4 multiplied by 6 is 24. 5 multiplied by 5 is 25. We now have 1 mark. By adding up all of them and getting an answer of 81, we have 2 marks. Make x the subject of the formula y equals 2x add 4. I'm going to do the flowchart method. Start with x and write out what is happening. 2x means multiply by 2. Add 4 means add 4, and that gives us y. Now we're going to go backwards and do the inverse. So subtract 4 and then divide 2, and that gets us x. We now have 1 mark. To get the final mark, we need to write this algebraically. Y subtract 4 is just y subtract 4. Divide 2, we have to write it as a fraction. And now we have 2 marks. The diagram shows a square ABDE and an equilateral triangle BCD. Work out the size of angle EBC. I am going to label EBD as X and DBC as Y. Angle X would be 90 degrees divided by 2. Remember, each angle inside a square is 90 degrees. We need to divide that by 2 and we get 45 degrees. Angle Y is one of the angles inside a triangle. The total angles inside a triangle is 180. It's an equilateral triangle, so we need to divide by 3, and that gets us 60 degrees. Any one of those would get you the 1 mark. To work out EBC, we need to add up 45 degrees and 60 degrees. We now have 105 degrees and our second mark. Liz goes on holiday to South Africa. Liz wants to change £850 into South African rand. She wants to get as many 200 rand notes as possible. The exchange rate is £1 to every 1853 rand. Work out the greatest number of 200 rand notes that Liz can get for £850. Step 1. We need to convert the currency. Start with what you know. We know £1 is equal to 1853 rand. We are converting £850. I'm going to go downwards. To go from 1 to 850, I need to multiply by 850. I'm going to do the same on the other side. That gives me 15,750.50. Now I have 1 mark. Step 2, we need to work out how many notes Liz can get. So we have notes and rand. 1 note is equal to 200 rand. We are converting 15,750.50. I'm going to go from 200 to 1, so I need to divide by 200. Do the same over here. That gets us 78.7525. Now we have 2 marks. The question says, work out the greatest number of 200 rand notes. If we round that up to 79, Liz will be converting more than £850. So the greatest number is 78 notes. And that gets us our 3rd mark. In October, Sally drove 560 miles in her car. The car travelled 34.5 miles for each gallon of petrol used. Petrol cost £1.08 per litre. 1 gallon is equal to 4.55 litres. Work out the cost of the petrol the car used in October. Step 1. Work out the cost for every gallon. We only know the cost for every litre. We know it's £1.08 for 1 litre. We also know that 1 gallon is equal to 4.55 litres. If I go from 1 down to 4.55, I need to multiply by 4.55. Do the same on the other side. That gets us 4.914. We now have 1 mark. Step 2, work out how many gallons are needed for the distance that Sally travelled. We know that 1 gallon will take us 34.5 miles. However, Sally travelled 560 miles. If we go from miles to gallons, we need to divide by 34.5. Do the same over here. That gets us a very long decimal answer, 16.2318 and so on. Save that value on your calculator. We now have 2 marks. Step 3, we need to work out the cost for every gallon. We know that for 1 gallon it will cost 4.914. The number of gallons used by Sally is 16.2318 and so on. If we go across, we need to multiply by 4.914. Do the same over here. Again, we get a very long decimal answer, 79.7634, and it continues. We now have 3 marks. For the final mark, we need to round our answer to 2 decimal places as it is money. So we have 79.76. And that gets us our final and fourth mark. Costco sells packets of mints to shop owners. On Monday, 3 owners buy mints. Each shop owner buys small packets, medium packets, and large packets. Alan buys 400 packets of mints. 32% are small and 40% are large. Beryl buys 500 packets. 3/10 of them are small and 1/10 of them are large. Charlie buys 150 small packets of mints so that the number of small packets to the number of medium packets is 3 to 4. Work out the total number of medium packets of mints these shop owners buy. You must show all your working. Let's start with Alan. We need to work out what percentage were medium. So we're going to do 100%, subtract 32%, subtract 40%. That leaves us 28%. We need to work out 28% of 400. I'm going to use a multiplier method. 0.28 multiplied by 400, and that leaves us 112. So Alan bought 112 medium packets. We now have 1 mark. Moving on to Beryl. We need to know what fraction represents medium. We are going to do 1, subtract 3/10, subtract 1/10. That leaves us 6/10. Beryl bought 500, so we need to find 6/10 of 500. We are going to do 500 divided by 10 for 1/10 and then multiplied by 6 for 6/10. That leaves us 300. So Beryl bought 300 medium packets. We now have 2 marks. Moving on to Charlie. Charlie bought small packets to medium packets in the ratio of 3 to 4. Charlie bought 150 small packets. Because we know we need to multiply by 50, we get another mark. 4 multiplied by 50 gets us 200. So Charlie bought 200 medium packets. We now have 4 marks. The total then is to add them all up. 112, add 300, add 200. That gives us 612 and our final and fifth mark. A universal set has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Set A has 1, 5, 6, 8, and 9. Set B has 2, 6, and 9. Complete the Venn diagram to represent this information. We must always start with the intersection. So what numbers are in both sets? I can see that 6 is in both of them. Cross out 6 from every single list, including the universal list. I can also see that 9 is in A and B. Again, cross it out from all lists. Now we have 1 mark. Now I'm going to focus on set A. What are the numbers that are only in set A? I can see there's a 1. I'm going to cross it out from all lists. I can see there is a 5. Again, cross it out from all lists. And we also have an 8. Again, cross it out from all lists. We now have 2 marks. Now I'm going to focus on set B. What number is only in set B? And there's only a 2. Again, cross it out. If you look at the universal set, we still have a 3, which needs to go outside the ring, but inside the rectangle. Now cross it out from the universal set. And you should notice there's also a 4, again cross it out from the list, and also a 7. For having all values in the correct places, we now have 3 marks. The question goes on to say, a number is chosen at random from the universal set. Find the probability that the number is in the set A intersection B. A intersection B is the highlighted region. There are only 2 numbers in that region, so our numerator is 2. We now have 1 mark. Because there are 9 numbers altogether, the denominator is 9, and we now have 2 marks. Altogether, in this question, we have 5 marks. Katie invests £200,000 in a savings account for 4 years. The account pays compound interest at a rate of 1.5% per annum. Calculate the total amount of interest Katie will get at the end of 4 years. We need to work out the multiplier. We are going to do 100%, add 1.5%, and that gets us 101.5%. As a multiplier, we need to divide that by 100, and that gets us 1.015. We are now going to do 200,000 multiplied by 1.015. For having this line written, you would get 1 mark. For now writing to the power of 4, we would get 2 marks. Type that into your calculator, and the answer is 212,272.7101. The question, however, says the total amount of interest. So we need to do 212,272.7101 subtract the original amount, so 200,000. That leaves us 12,272.701. Remember, money should be left to 2 decimal places, so the final answer, the total amount of interest that Katie will get at the end of 4 years, is £12,272.71, and having that answer will get you the 3rd mark. The table shows information about the heights of 80 plants. Find the class interval that contains the median. Median is the middle value of an ordered list. Looking at the table, it is already in order. To find the middle value, we need to do 80 divided by 2, and that gives us 40. We need to find the 40th plant. We need a 3rd column, label it cumulative frequency, which is a running total. So we have 7, add the 13, that gets us 20, add the 14, that gets us 34, add the 12, and that gets us 46. We don't need to continue because we can see that 40 would lie over here. So our answer is the height is more than 40, but less than or equal to 50. And just writing this would get you the 1 mark. On the grid, draw a frequency polygon for the information in the table. We need to make sure that we are plotting at the middle of each class interval. For the first one, we need to go to 15 and plot 7. For the second one, 25 and plot 13. For the third one, we go to 35 and plot 14. For the fourth one, we go to 45 and plot 12. For the fifth one, go to 55 and plot 16. And for the last one, go to 65 and plot 18. Now we have 1 mark. For the final mark, we need to join up each point with a ruler. Of course, your one will be more accurate than mine. To get the second mark, each point must be joined up with a ruler. Sean has drawn a time series graph to show the numbers in thousands of visitors to a fun park. Write down 2 things that are wrong or could be misleading with this graph. You can write any of the following. 1. Sean has used curves and not straight lines. Secondly, you could say the first quarter hasn't been plotted. Thirdly, you could say the vertical scale is wrong as 9.5 is missing. Any 2 of the following would get you 2 marks. The diagram shows a hexagon. The hexagon has 1 line of symmetry. Length FA is equal to length BC. Length EF is equal to length CD. Angle ABC is equal to 117 degrees. Angle BCD is twice the angle of CDE. Work out the size of angle AFE. You must show all your working. I'm going to draw in the line of symmetry, which is vertical. And then I'm going to label all the angles. FAB must also be 117 degrees. From what we've been told about angle BCD equaling 2 lots of angle CDE, we can say CDE is angle X, making BCD 2x. The line of symmetry makes AFE 2x and FED x. Now I'm going to work out the total interior angles of a hexagon. I need to do 6 subtract 2 multiplied by 180, and that gets me 720 degrees. That is our first mark. Now I'm going to create an equation. I'm going to start with angle A. I have 117, add 117, add 2x, add x, add x, add 2x, and that equals 720. That is our second mark. To solve this, we need to collect the like terms. Now we have 6x add 234 is equal to 720. We still only have 2 marks. To solve, I'm going to use the flowchart method. So x multiplied by 6, then add 234 gives us 720. To go backwards, we need to do the inverse, subtract 234 and divide by 6. That gets us our third mark. X is equal to 81. Step 3, we need to work out the size of angle AFE. That's over here. Angle AFE, in our case, has been labelled 2x. So we need to do 2 multiplied by 81. That gets us 162 degrees, and that gets us our fourth mark. Jeremy has to cover 3 tanks completely with paint. Each tank is in the shape of a cylinder with a top and a bottom. The tank has a diameter of 1.6 meters and a height of 1.8 meters. Jeremy has 7 tins of paint. Each tin of paint covers 5 square meters. Has Jeremy got enough paint to cover completely the 3 tanks? You must show how you get your answer. To start with, I am going to work out the radius. Radius is half the diameter, so we have 0.8 meters. The question said that Jeremy is going to cover each tank, so we need the surface area. Remember, for the surface area of a cylinder, we need this curved part plus these 2 circles at the top and bottom. For the curved part, we need to do 2 pi RH. For the 2 circles, we need to do 2 pi r squared. Now let's substitute our numbers. We have 2 pi multiplied by 0.8 multiplied by 1.8. We now have 1 mark. Add 2 pi multiplied by 0.8 squared gives us our second mark. Type that into the calculator. It is 13.069. It does continue, but I'm going to leave it as that. Step 2, we need to work out the total area for paint. Remember, it isn't just 1 tank, there are 3 tanks. So we need to do 3 multiplied by 13.069, and that gets us 39.2070. Again, it does actually continue, but I will leave it at that. I now have 3 marks. Step 3, we need to know the number of tins needed. Each tin covers 5 square meters, but we have 39.2070. So divide that by 5 and we end up with 7.84 tins needed. My answer has been rounded. I now have 4 marks. For the final mark, I need to justify whether or not Jeremy has enough paint. He does not have enough paint. We now need to justify this. So we will write because 7 is less than 7.84. And now we have our 5th and final mark. Solve the simultaneous equations 3x subtract 4y is equal to 11 and 9x add 2y is equal to 5. I always start by labeling my equations. Neither the x's nor the y's have the same coefficient, so I can't just yet eliminate any of them. I am going to multiply equation 2 by 2 to make the y's the same coefficient. I now have 3x subtract 4y is equal to 11, and I have 18x add 4y is equal to 10. Notice the coefficient in front of the y's are the same. For simultaneous equations, I use stop. Same sign, take away, opposite sign, plus. In our case, our signs are opposite, so we are going to add both equations. I end up with 21x is equal to 21. To solve this, we need to divide by 21. X is equal to 1. Now we need to work out what y is equal to. I am going to sub into equation 2. I now have 9 lots of 1. Add 2y is equal to 5. So I have 9 add 2y equals 5. Again, I'm going to use the flowchart method. So I have y multiplied by 2, add 9 to give me 5. Go backwards doing the inverse, subtract 9 and divide by 2. That gets us negative 2. So x is equal to 1 and y is equal to negative 2. To get full marks in this question, you need to show that you are eliminating the x's or the y's. That gets you 1 mark. Then for getting either the x or the y, you get a 2nd mark, and then for having both of them, you would get the 3rd mark. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.